Since the start of the World Cup, Brazil's national colours have taken over Copacabana, the world's most famous beach. They're on football shirts, of course, but also on sarongs, fans and many other items. The Brazilian flag is everywhere. Yet since the 2014 World Cup, which took place right here, it no longer sparks the same enthusiasm.
Here's the jersey we call the little yellow one. It's really let me down. A team that gave up 7 goals to Germany in 2014 doesn't deserve our respect. They've become little starlets. They've lost our respect. The Federation has been plagued by countless scandals. The players have played in 2 World Cups, haven't proven anything on the field, and keep acting all high and mighty.
For many Brazilians, 2014 will remain etched in their memories, not just for the football, but as a World Cup that tore the country apart.
No Rio, centenas de manifestantes se reuniram no final da tarde na Central do Brasil.
A year before its kick-off, protests erupted against what were deemed absurd expenditures, 15 billion euros on infrastructure, 5 times the initial budget, while the country needed more schools, hospitals and public transport. On the streets of Rio and Sao Paulo, the movement dubbed the Brazilian Spring was violently suppressed.
Princípio de confusão na altura do Trianon MASP.
At the time, the protests against the World Cup were meant to be peaceful, but for many like this sociology professor, they turned into a nightmare.
This square was really the rallying point for our protests, and it became a place where a lot of violence took place. I ran to help a fellow professor who had been injured right here on this street. It was during the dispersal, and we wanted to stay to continue occupying the square. He'd been shot with a live round. The police were throwing tear gas canisters just a few centimeters away from us. It had turned into a war zone, something we'd never seen before. We'd been promised social improvements with this World Cup, but in reality, the people have mostly faced repression, embezzlement, and evictions.
Rebecca de Souza is one of 23 protesters who were arrested and sentenced to more than 10 years in prison for violence against the state. As a member of a collective of activist lawyers, Italo Pires has been defending them since the trial began in 2014. He succeeded in proving their innocence just a few months ago.
You were held up as an example. Because at the time, social mobilization or protests against the government was strictly forbidden, even though this discontent had been simmering for much longer.
The lawyer believes the movement against the World Cup was a catalyst for a sudden shift in the country's politics.
At the time, the left and the right were vying for the support of this dissatisfied population. Amid all this frustration, the right was more adept at understanding the phenomenon and realized it could capitalize on it politically. We've seen it grow with Dilma Rousseff's impeachment, the rise of Jair Bolsonaro, and everything we've experienced since.
A symbol of the polarization in Brazilian society, the national football team's shirt has even become the uniform of the conservative right embodied by Jair Bolsonaro, to the point where it became the banner of the attempted coup on January the 8th, 2023. With new presidential elections just a few months away, it's now Flavio Bolsonaro, the former president's son, who's seizing every opportunity to wear it. It's an appropriation that irritates those within the government's ranks. At the opening of a social services fair, the president's Secretary General even made a prediction.
They thought Brazil's colors belonged to them, but they were wrong. We are the true patriots. With Lula and this team that best defends the Brazilian people. And I'm putting my money on it here that we can win a 6th star and Lula a 3rd term, and that we'll be able to continue transforming our country. Thank you.
In 2014, while leading the landless workers movement, Guilherme Boulos took part in the occupation of the area around the Sao Paulo stadium to protest against the eviction of more than 2,000 families living in precarious conditions.
Da inauguração da Copa, os trabalhadores sem teto estão mostrando a cara.
12 years on, as if to make amends, he's presiding over the inauguration of more than 85,000 social housing units in this suburb of Sao Paulo. Doctors, dentists and social workers travel in these vans to every state in the country to help the most vulnerable.
I've been involved in social movements all my life. That's how my career developed back then. Now that I'm in government, I must remain true to my roots, keep the promises I made. It's a question of consistency.
According to the latest poll, 50% of Brazilians disapprove of President Lula's government. So appeasing social movements is vital to prevent any further uprisings similar to the one before the 2014 World Cup.